all of my favorite influencers are very polished. It's like, I mean, they could be models, it's very polished, it's very shiny, it's very bright. And I was like, I don't have the infrastructure to do bright, shiny content.
So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Welcome back, everyone, to Call Me CEO. This is your host, Camille Walker. Today, we are talking about how we are improving empowerment and also how we are connecting through community. And I have an expert here, Camille McCallum, who has built an incredible online community. She is also an author, an entrepreneur, and has a new clothing brand that is called Black Woman on a Mission. Her book is called The Power of Infinite Potential. And we actually connected on Threads recently. I don't know if you're familiar with Threads. It's through Instagram. It's kind of like Twitter, now X, but better, I think, because there's a lot of women supporting women. And if you look up that hashtag, you will find a lot of women chatting, new people talking, communities that are building. And so fun to talk to Camille here, because that's actually how we met. And a weird finding is that her maiden name is Camille Walker. So basically, I'm talking to another form of myself, which is really exciting. No, she's very different and very amazing. And it's so good to have you, Camille. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it and glad to connect from Threads to here.
Yeah, who would have thought? I feel like there are these social medias that pop up every now and again where you're like, is this going to stick, like Periscope or different things like that? But I think this one's going to be around for a while because it is through Instagram. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it'll be around for a while just because it is through Instagram, and I don't think Instagram's going anywhere. Plus, who I follow on Threads and that population coming from Instagram versus X is totally different. So I feel like the conversation is a lot better, fresher, more relevant on Threads, at least for me anyway.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I feel like my Instagram handle that I've had forever feels kind of dead in some ways. A lot of people aren't seeing my stories the way they used to, and the conversation's happening, but I feel like the people on Threads right now are a little more business focused and a little more ready to get the engines going on whatever their new adventure is. So if you are in this space, which you are because you listen to this podcast, check out Threads and follow us both. You can find me at CamilleWalker.co, and Camille's is Camille Viviana. Is that right? Am I saying that one right?
Okay. That's right.
Perfect. Well, today we're talking about building community, which is something I'm familiar with, and Camille is too. And I'm so excited to hear your expertise on that and how, especially you're doing this for women in the Black community, which I always want to rally behind. So please tell us your story and how this became a passion for you.
Absolutely. I started back in 2020, and at this time, my digital footprint was a lot smaller than it is now. I had about 3,000 followers on Instagram, and that was my main social media profile. But as we were kind of all sitting at home during the pandemic, I started to think really critically about what I wanted to put out into the world and what was important to me. And honestly, I was just feeling kind of aimless. Like I had a lot of talent and a lot to give, but I wasn't directing it anywhere that was meaningful. And so through that year, I started working on my book, The Power of Infinite Potential, and the process of writing that and really figuring out my values and my belief system as I went through the process of writing that book led me to understand that I needed to be doing purposeful work. And I think that that can look different over the course of time. Certainly it's changing as I've become a new mom, and the things that are important to me have really shifted. And it's funny how that happens. You get these little people introduced into your life and suddenly you're like, oh, I am not the most important person in the room. That is great. And so, so I knew I wanted to work on kind of a project that I was passionate about. And Black Women on a Mission is something that came to me in a dream, if you can believe that.
I
But I
do.
mean, I think that I was just like fiending for something so badly and just praying and asking and thinking and just, circling the wagon until I found something. And so when I was hit with that dream, Black Woman on a Mission, I just woke up immediately and started working on it. It was like 3 o'clock in the
Mm.
morning. I gave myself no time. You know how dreams are. They're so
I have the
fleeting, so I
chills
didn't
all
want to
over.
lose it.
Yes. I'm like, do it. What's happening?
It was wonderful, I mean, and I was in the stage of my life where I was like keeping paper and pen by my bedside because I was like, something is going to hit me and I don't want to lose it when it does.
Mm.
And so it was one of those things where everything really aligned to where there were no stumbling blocks to me creating this. I had built skills up over time, like learning how to build websites and these types of things. And I built different relationships through my 9 to 5 job that just made everything really seamless. So from the time I had that dream, it was probably not a month later before I was able to launch Black Woman on a Mission.
Wow.
And I launched it as a project. I didn't even launch it as a business because I was like, maybe nobody will identify with this and it's just for me. But I'm gonna set it up and put it out there and we'll see. And like I said, at that time, I didn't have a huge following, so I wasn't expecting, thousands of orders or anything like that. But I mean, I got like 100 orders in the first hour of my launch, and I was like, oh wow, this is really, I have something here. And so I've just continued to build on it. And I think that is what has built the community. The fact that I didn't go in with a mindset of like I'm telling anybody anything or I'm directing you to where you need to go. I was kind of like, here's a thing. Let's
Mm.
develop it together. Let's feel it out a little bit together. So I'm always asking questions, to my audience. Even on the front of the sweatshirt, it says resilient. And that was a word that the community chose. I was making Facebook statuses and Instagram polls. What word do you feel like describes Black women? And that was the overwhelming
Mm.
answer. So that's how that ended up there. I didn't try to impose anything on my community to say, this is what I think represents us. I asked them, what do you think represents yourself? Um, and so I think because of that, it's been really well received because people are a part of it. And I've really done the difficult work of documenting the journey and kind of being my own documentarian. And people love being along for the ride with you. I think it's such a great way to garner support because they realize that you really are kind of slogging it out. Like you're doing the hard work, you're doing the grunt work and the behind the scenes stuff. There's no kind of engine in the background making it work. I am the engine. And I think people identify with that and it gives them inspiration that they can do that for themselves as well. So that has been a great joy. And over this time I've been able to grow my social media following to over 250,000 people
Amazing.
and, share this journey with them, which is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack here. I love so much that you said I kept a notebook next to my bed because I feel like there is a magical time between wake and sleep that we are given messages. I believe they come from beyond. I believe there are angels and messengers and God and I believe in that. So the fact that you were able to open that channel and have that ready and accessible and that message was like okay, go. And you just like did it. That is so cool. And as far as moving into having your audience involved, where you were at 3,000 and now you're at 250, I mean, walk me through that. How did you get there? How did you increase your following? How did you garnish this community feel that was obviously so needed and communicated your mission so well?
Absolutely. I have to first thank my book publisher, New Degree Press, because when I was starting out, and this was all around the same time. So I launched Black Woman on a Mission in October of 2020, and my book came out in December of 2020. So
Wow.
I had been working on it. It all came out in tandem, but that just kind of goes to show how when you're putting that creative energy forward, there really is a momentum to that.
Hmm.
And so I think, you have to keep moving in that direction. But my book publisher, had told everybody. I was in a program, I was in a book publishing program, and the publisher told everyone, you have to sell $5,000 worth of copies of this book as a pre-order. And I was like, impossible. How am I supposed to do that? And he was like, you have to start posting every single day. And I was like, posting to
Mm.
who? But he taught me crowdfunding through social media. He
Mm.
taught me this kind of concept of, getting early adopters, early readers, make a Facebook status, ask people to get on your email list, send them your first chapter, send them this, send them that, so that you can involve people in your process. And then when you ask them to buy a $30 pre-order of a paperback book, they're already in it. So they're more likely to say yes. And so because I had gone through that process back in June of 2020, I decided to apply the same principles to Black Women on a Mission. And
Mm.
so that's what prompted me to start putting that Facebook status out there, putting those Instagram posts out there, asking people what word represented them. I didn't tell them where all this was going. I just said, I'm doing some research. Can you help me out with this? And so as I started to involve people, they started to put those little pieces together of like, oh, she asked us this, and now we're seeing it here. I think Black Woman on a Mission was such a bold statement, and so much so something that people could identify with, that it started to kind of have that viral spread, because people were identifying with it. And then, of course, once they get the merchandise, it's a wearable, advertisement. And so
Hmm.
we started to grow from there. I branched out over into TikTok because during the pandemic, I mean, this was a app that was growing like wildfire. And I was like, I need to be a first mover. And I think even still, 2020 was kind of late, but I was like, I need to try to get on this app and figure it out. So I probably spent 6 months on the app, like flailing around, not really trying to like do trends and different things like that. And I think what I learned really specifically was that I have to lean into my unique voice. I have to lean into my talent, and put out there what I have, which is my ability to tell a story, my ability to use humor. And so that's what I started to do. And I started to put the brand out there. And once again, invite people on the journey. And what I found really worked on TikTok was inviting them into my problems and those behind the scenes
Mm.
things. So if I had a whole shipment of inventory go wrong, I would show it to people and I would be like, well, this sucks, but what should I do next? And give them an opportunity to help me. And that really brought people into the journey, and helped me grow my following. And over time, I realized that I could branch that out into more and more topics that were relevant to Black women that would grow the following. And then when they got there, I could introduce them to Black Women on a Mission. Because I think sometimes in business, you can get really salesy. It's
Hmm.
like you've got an agenda, you've got a bottom line at a certain point that you want to meet. So you're constantly like, how can I get the next sale, get the next sale, get the next sale? But I think there's a lot to be said for nurturing your customer and your community and not just viewing them as, another sell. And so for some women, they may follow me for 2 years before they buy anything, but I'm totally committed to giving to them, and so I feel like as long as I take the aspect of a giver in my social media community, then I'll continue to grow.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. Being a giver in the community. Okay, so a big question that I get from people that are wanting to grow online and wanting to build that community, but they let fear stop them. Or, I mean, I think that there's two big questions. It's the fear of getting over that, the embarrassment or the worry or the what if I mess up or whatever it is. And then there's also the content, wheel where you're like, how do I keep coming up with things to do? Can you walk us through those two and tell us how you handled both of those?
Absolutely. Number one, my mantra for 2024 is stop overthinking it and start overdoing it. So
Mm.
I'm preaching that message as far and wide as I can. I think that so many people get stuck in analysis paralysis and you're overthinking it when the best thing that you can do is learn by doing and let trial and error be your teacher. So you just have to eliminate the fear at the end of the day. I think if people are worried about, people from their hometown or what people may have to say, just remember that 99% of the negative comments that will ever be said about you in your life, you'll never hear them because people aren't going to say them to your face. So why be worried about it?
Hmm.
I think you have to lean into the cringe. You have to lean into the embarrassment. For the longest time, I wouldn't watch my own videos. Like, I hated hearing the sound of my own voice, but it's irrelevant, because you're
Yeah.
trying to accomplish something. So you can't be in your own way. You know what I mean? A lot of times, like, you're your own worst critic in a lot of ways because you're not even giving people anything to critique when you're stuck in analysis process. You haven't put anything out there. Um, so that's like one hurdle that I think you just have to jump. Like, stop overthinking it. Stop overthinking it. If you've got one piece of an idea, just put it out there. And it will continue to build on itself. I did a whole TikTok series probably for 6 months where I just used comments from the last video to make the next
Hmm.
video. You
I
know,
love that about
um,
TikTok. I love that about TikTok because if people engage at all, you can use that to create new content.
Absolutely. And once again, at that point, you're leaning into the community because somebody's asked a question or they've sparked a thought. And now we're going down their thought process and their train of thought. And we're able to give them more information on something that they were thinking about. So there goes your content right there. I think in that way, if you lean into that, you can never really run out of content. I may make a video about something totally different and then somebody will say, "How'd you get your hair like that?" And then I'll make a video about my hair. But it's like it just and I'll talk about maybe the same thing that I was talking about in the previous video over this hair tutorial. But it's like if this is something you want to see, I'll give
Hmm.
it to you, but I'm still going to spread the message that's important to me at the same time.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
I think if you lean into that, then you won't run out of content. And the second thing I think is that people think that they have to be, at this pinnacle at the beginning. And I'm not really sure why we feel that way. You know what I mean? It's like people want to jump from kindergarten to high school graduation all in one day. And you have to understand, like, it's okay to start at the ground floor and work your way up. And I think people, in a lot of ways, like we do a lot of algorithm chasing and all these types of things, but I think the best key to content is common sense. Would you watch this video? When I look at all of my content every single time, I look at my content and sometimes I go, boring, scroll. And I don't post that. Like
Hmm.
if it couldn't keep my own attention and I made the video, then I'm like, that's not a good video.
True.
So I really critique myself, in that way. And I think that that helps. Now, I don't over critique myself because I
Mhm.
made some videos that I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to care about that. And it's like my most viral video. So it's funny how
Yes.
that type of stuff happens. But you just have to lean into this concept of like, I really do think in a lot of ways, quantity is better than quality because quantity will
Hmm.
give you quality eventually.
Hmm.
It's like playing basketball. Like you need to shoot 1,000 free throws before you can get to the line and know that it's going to go in every time. So the social media is kind of the same way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that it's interesting. It's very much that concept of, I don't know if you've heard this story, but there was a study done with a photography class, and the teacher split the class into two and said, one group, I want you to create as much as you can, as many photos as you can. And to the other group, I want you to turn in one final assignment. You're nodding your head, so I think you might have heard this one. And the people who put out as much content as possible had the best final project, where the one that stuck with that one idea and put it at the very end, it didn't go as well. And I think that social media is very much that way if we can get over ourselves. It's like, get over yourself and just put the content. And I'm guilty of this. And I've been creating content online for 12 years. So it's something that is good to remind yourself of and to have a support group that will help you and rally behind you when you feel down. Is that something
Absolutely.
that you
I
have?
totally agree. And I
Yeah.
love that story.
Yes.
Yes, in a way. Yes, in a way. I think I have kind of built an online community of women that I can talk to. And I actually love threads for this
Hmm.
because before on Twitter or X, I wasn't following any influencers. I wasn't following any of those kind of people I wanted to be my peers in any way on that app. On threads, it's like all influencers because it's people that I follow on Instagram. And so I'm able to kind of connect with them more about the behind the scenes of how they're thinking through their content, how they're thinking through their deals, new things they want to put out there, their creative process. And that has really helped me to build a community because I feel like in my, real life and with my friends, I'm like the one who does social media. A lot
Yes.
of my friends just, you know what I mean? Like they just, I
Yep.
mean, they're just not into it. They have other careers. So that's
Hmm.
totally fine. And so I've built that online community, which I think is super helpful because it gives me new ideas as well as help me negotiate better in my deals, helps me grow my business. So I've learned so much from women online, even just with sharing softwares that they use. I think the actual way that I first ran across you was you'd made a Pinterest article or you made an article on your blog about how to start a podcast, which I saw on Pinterest, and this led me down this whole rabbit hole to finding you.
Oh, no way.
But
That's cool.
yeah. But see, stuff like that is like, you think, I mean, you might have put that article out 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and,
Yes.
you don't know what that article is doing. But I mean, I saw that and now we're on the phone. So, I mean, all of these little, pieces that you put out there, they matter and they do produce a return.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that I started that, or I put that post out there like probably 3 years ago. I didn't know that's how you found me. That's really cool. I love hearing that. Well,
Absolutely.
okay, so let's share software. Let's get into that. What are some of your favorite apps, software, social media, video editing tools? What are some of your favorites?
Absolutely. Okay. Number one is InShot. Oh, I'm like
Hmm.
an InShot fanatic. And I think InShot, the pro version is like 6.99 or something like that. It's nothing crazy. And it's not a subscription, so you pay for it one time and you're done. But I do a lot of my video editing there. Now, I've recently gotten into CapCut for
Hmm.
video editing as well. And CapCut is owned by the same people who own TikTok. So those two pair
Oh, I
really
didn't
well
realize that.
together.
That makes more sense because you always see
Mm-hmm.
advertisements for CapCut on TikTok. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. It's all one conglomeration. And then I think that's also why CapCut videos, even though their templates do really well on TikTok, because I think TikTok themselves is pushing it.
Makes
Um,
sense.
but I also, a little known one that I got from one of my influencer friends is a smaller company called Norby, which
Hmm.
I use for my text messages. And so I was looking for a text software that was user friendly. And a lot of text softwares, you probably know this, they're very bulky and like they're kind of hard to use. And so I was looking for something that was really seamless and really straightforward. And Norby really had that option. So I really love working with them. They do landing pages as well as like link tree type of pages. But the text messaging is what to me really makes them worthwhile. So I love that.
Interesting. Is that how you text your customers? Is that what you're using it
Yes.
for?
I use that for my ambassador program as well as kind of my SMS marketing.
Very
So I
cool.
really love that. And then I do have an ambassador program, which I run through another software called Tapfiliate. And I've really enjoyed that software as well because they take care of all of the payments. So, you kind of just have a card on file. You can load all of your ambassadors onto there. Or they can kind of load themselves onto there. And then it keeps track of all of their sales that they're doing. And then there's an automated payment once a month so that everybody gets paid out. And it's great. So those have been ones that I've really loved. And those have been the ones that I've kind of had to like really dig to find, if that
This is
makes
gold, you
sense.
guys. This is the kind of stuff where you go to a women's conference and you're like, okay, what are you using? How does it work? Tell me the details. So, yes, thank you.
Yes.
I love that you're sharing this because you do have to dig to find the things that really work and are up and coming.
Absolutely. Especially ones that are user friendly. Like if I
Hmm.
get on something and it takes me 30 minutes to figure out how to do something simple, I'm like, this is not the software for me. I don't have that kind of time. Um, just and maybe that is like part of my like maybe that's not a good thing about me, but I'm just like I want a user friendly software. I don't want a
Yeah.
bulky software. I was not a MySpace girl. I'm not about to HTML this page together. Like I need something simple.
I love it. Well, that's you're my people then, because that's the same for me, where I feel like technology, even with InShot, they have increased their ability so much. I started using it in 2018, 2019,
Mm.
and even just in the last year, they've added so many more features. And so it's cool to hear about, ones that are working well and also adapting, but also making it easier for you and adding captions without having to go to the captions app, which is one that I really like for adding captions that makes it, you can brand it with coloring and make it look a specific font the way you want to, where I used to have to clip and cut and add captions through
Ooh.
a different way of doing that. So it's nice to see how, as things improve, to have friends in this space so that you can say what's new, what's working well, because saving time is money, and we all know that. So that's really helpful. Are there any other apps that you love to keep your business and your orders in check? I don't have a product business, and so that's one where I'm like, ooh, the fulfillment of products is a lot to me. I've done products in the past, and one Christmas spent delivering coats from a late shipment from China got me off that ship. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. So tell me what's helped you in that arena.
Absolutely. I think if you're doing enough volume,
Hmm.
then I would work with a fulfillment partner, which is what I did for probably most of 2023. And also part of that was because I was in the midst of a twin pregnancy, which was a lot harder on my body than I could have ever imagined. I don't know what I thought being pregnant was. I thought that it was like really blissful and cute, and it wasn't at all.
Especially with twins, your first time, that's like
Yeah,
extra
yeah.
demanding.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And my body was just like, hey, you need to have a seat. And so I just wasn't physically capable of doing a lot of things that I'd done in the past. And just by virtue of me like liking to run lean, I'd always kept my products close, done my own shipping
Mm.
and fulfillment. But I started working with a warehousing partner called Saltbox, and they're in most major metropolitan cities in the US. But they were wonderful.
Mm.
It's small box warehousing on month-to-month leases. They have
Cool.
fulfillment options. I mean, this is like a small business dream for warehousing because normally, people want you to rent out 10,000 square feet and all that. And it's like, I don't need all of that. I'm doing like 200 square feet of work, not 10,000. And Saltbox gives you that option. So I started working with them to do my fulfillment, and that just cut my whole operation in half in terms of labor that it was taking. Now it takes your cost up a little bit, but so
Mhm.
worth it. So extremely worth it, especially in the situation that I was in. So in the past, I mean, it's been a slog, like, like trying to put out 100 orders a week and do all this type of stuff by hand. I won't tell anybody that it's something easy to do. That it's something easy to do because it's not.
Mhm.
Um, but worth it, I think, if you're into it. And like I said, using a fulfillment partner like Saltbox, really streamlining your processes to get things done. Like I started working locally only in the US. So everything I source is in the US. All my customization is done in the US. So I'm never kind of holding products over in that way. And that just totally changed the game on everything. Because even my sourcing partner has physical shops. So I mean, I've like flown to Baltimore to be like, hello, y'all are sold out of this online. I need it. Like give me everything you have in stock. But see, that's the nature of like a product-based business is like you kind of have to get in the weeds. But
Hmm.
From a software perspective, I use Squarespace. Don't be like me. I should be using Shopify. However, Squarespace is so much easier to set up on your own. And when I was setting this up in 2020, I was like, oh, I know how to set up a Squarespace site. So I set the site up in
Hmm.
like 12 minutes. Versus like a Shopify site that I was like, I'm gonna have to hire somebody to help me with this. Um, but it's been fine for me. And then I use ShipStation for all of my shipping. And that is totally, you know, it's easy peasy.
That's awesome. And ShipStation is where you can print off the labels at home. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. What I really love seeing during the pandemic and on TikTok is all the behind the scenes videos of small businesses packaging and prepping their orders. And those do really well on like for engagement and with numbers. I don't know if you've seen that. I'm guessing you have, but it's
Yep.
so cool to see
hmm
the behind the scenes of the business owner doing the things, getting in the mess of it and making it
Exactly.
happen.
I think you can think of Instagram to me anyway, as Instagram is like the finished product, and then TikTok
Hmm.
is kind of behind the scenes. So
Yes.
I think that you can apply that to pretty much anything. So it's like on Instagram, you're going to see like flowery, photo shoots and product shots and all these types of things. And that's what we're going to really show there. But on TikTok, it's like we're in the weeds, we're in the warehouse. It's not cute, but it's real and it's raw, and people really see you building a business. And I think that's inspirational
Hmm.
and aspirational, because a lot of people want to build businesses themselves, and you're kind of showing them like it's not that hard. Like it is a little difficult, but if you get out of your own head and out of your own way, you can do it.
And put in the work. Yeah. I think Instagram is trying to be like that. It's kind of getting to that point, but I agree. TikTok is just different. It's a different space, which is really cool because you can use both and see which one feels best for you and create that community. So on Instagram, you have, is that where you have your 250 or is that on TikTok?
I have my 250 on TikTok.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
That's
And
really
I would
cool.
say it's been really interesting because all of my favorite influencers are very polished. It's like, I mean, they could be models, it's very polished, it's very shiny, it's very bright. And I was like, I don't have the infrastructure to do bright, shiny content at this time. I think now,
Yeah.
I could do it, but a lot of people that I've observed, it's like their boyfriend or their husband like does photography or somebody
Hmm.
close or this type of thing. And I'm like, I have to hire a photographer, get a studio, do all like I have to spend a lot of money every time I want to take a nice looking photo, and that is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so, but I was like the real, the raw talking, which also I think is becoming native to Instagram. But for a long time, Instagram was a silent app. Like we are
Absolutely.
not saying words on here.
Hmm.
And I was like, words is where I thrive.
Yeah, me too.
um, so I felt like it was easier for me to build on TikTok. And I mean, that's just the truth. But it was easier for me to build on TikTok because people are listening to TikTok with the sound on. And I can
Hmm.
capture people with my voice, which was harder to do with just like my presence or with pictures, simply because of all the hurdles I had to jump through to get a nice photo.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good point. We need to be friends on TikTok. I'm over there too at CamilleWalker.co. I have a little over 100,000 followers over there, but I've been quiet for a while because I was contracted with TikTok to make 5 to 7 videos a week. And I was doing it very regularly while my kids were home during the pandemic. And it started to be a bit of a conflict with my time as a mom with them. And
Mm.
one of my kids said, Mom, are we doing this for fun, like to be with us, or are you doing this for TikTok? And that really like was a gut
Oh,
punch a little bit. In fact, that's when I switched more of my content to be less about parent and kids and more about women in business. And so that's when I got a little quiet on TikTok. So I'm like, uh-oh, this, do they care? Like I've built this other, community and now I'm switching the gears and I just need to get back on there and be like, surprise. I've done a little bit since then, but not as much. And so I really want to see yours because I think the way you're talking to your audience is how I want to talk to my audience, not so much doing the kids' finger activities and, keto recipes, which is still good, but
which
it's
is
a
still
different kind
fun.
of audience. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I have switched it up on TikTok 1,000 times. Like, if you go on my page, you'll be like, this girl talks about everything under the sun. But I mean,
And it's
it gives
fine.
you that opportunity. It's fine.
Okay,
It's
that's what I needed to hear.
fine.
I needed to hear that. I appreciate that.
It's fine. I think as long as you have a through line, and
Yeah.
mine is Black Woman on a Mission, like that's what I'm
Yes.
known for, and that's what people know
Yes.
me for. And I can chop that into every single thing that I do. I'll talk
Hmm.
about anything. I'll do fashion, hair, food, baby.
Which is
I do it
interesting,
all.
which is really fun and interesting. I think that's really cool. Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit talking about motherhood because we're moms here. And that's a piece of what we talk about with running business. How have you managed with tiny twins and the business? I mean, you went in head first. You have this book, you have this business, social media, all the things. And now you're a mom of twin 5-month-olds. Is that right? They're five
That's
months?
right. They're 5 months.
Oh my gosh. I wish I could hold them. I know that's like so
They're
creepy
so
probably,
sweet.
but what a fun age. They're not even like crawling yet, right? So you can
Mm-mm.
still just snuggle them and which is also really demanding. I'm sure your night times are very challenging. Tell us about how that's going.
Well, here's the thing. I have a ton of help, and without that, I would be, I don't know, probably needing some very strong medication to get through the day.
Yeah.
Um, but I have a lot of help, and so that makes things a lot easier. I
Mm.
just had my twins. I'm a new mom. They're my first, last, only children. And so it has been a huge learning curve because I don't have as many hours in the day. I remember like the first 2 months of their life, I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to like get on top of anything. Like I don't have a free thought in my head. You know what I mean? Like it's like I literally could not even think. Like I was like in a brain fog for like 2 months.
Yes.
That scared me. That scared me
Yeah.
really badly.
It's
Because
lack
I
of
was like,
sleep. It's a lot of things. Yeah, and it is scary.
the minute they started sleeping through the night, I was like, wow, I can rejoin the human race. This is amazing. So I think that having a lot of help really is amazing. Like even right now, just to be able to be on this podcast, like I have help, I don't have two babies in my lap or anything like that. So that makes a huge difference. But I think the other thing was that I had to start deciding what was important to me, what my values were, and how I was going to prioritize things. So right at the 3 month mark, I went back to work in the office. And I was working a job that I really liked. But my commute was an hour
Mhm.
and I was missing my kids terribly and just feeling
Yeah.
like there was going to come a time when they were going to hit pre-K or kindergarten. And from that point on, they were going to be spending more time with other people than they ever were going to spend with me again. And I didn't want to miss this small, finite time that I could have with them. And having built, a side career on social media and having a business, I was like, I have plenty of ways to replace this income. I can't replace this time.
Mhm.
And so I let go of my 9 to 5 job recently. And I think that that has opened so many doors for me already. I've only been off the job since the end of January, and it's what, February 6th. So it hasn't been very long, but already I have new opportunities. Already my brain is clearer. Already I'm happier. And I'm able to work harder and run harder for my business in less time. Like
Yeah.
a 9 to 5 job really is trading time for money. And the type of career that I have now, a creative career, is really not like that, at least not for me. And so I'm just so much happier now. But it's really the help and the support, my husband being super supportive and just, saying like, okay, if that's what you want to do, you do it, girl, But that has made all the difference. And so I'm loving this time that I'm getting to spend with them. But the balance is, and the balance is not bad because I don't have too many competing priorities now. When I was still
Hmm.
going to work, I had too many competing priorities. And so it was hard to have any balance because I felt bad if I was coming home and I was working on things I hadn't seen them all day and that sort of thing. But now that I get to be here with them, they get to see me work. They'll kind of grow up seeing that. And I like that
Yes.
about it.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I mean, that's why I built the program, and the offerings that I have is teaching women how to build online business from home and also coaching people to do that as well, because I've done that for 13 years now. And my kids, I have 4 children, and they're now 15, 13, 10, and 7. And they've been a part of it every step of the way. And it's such a gift that we have that capability to be able to be at home and create businesses that are successful. So I know you'll do it. It makes me so happy to hear that you're able to do that and open up that possibility for yourself. Well, this has been so fun. I have loved talking to you so much, Camille. The time has just flown. I've laughed so much. The question I told you I was going to ask you is, what are you watching, listening to, or reading? What are those 3?
Right now, I'm reading The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin, and I'm loving it. It's not a traditional book in a sense. It's like kind of poems and quips and little
Mm,
essays and different things, but it really talks about the creative process. And Rick Rubin, who's a music producer, is kind of a purist about the creative process. And like, he talks about art as an offering to God and art for art's sake and art that you feel in your soul, like, that art isn't for the audience. And so I think I oftentimes am trying to strike a balance between creating things that I love, that I'm passionate about, and that I think are true to my gifting, as well as, things that are income generating, because just being realistic, like that's important. Like,
yeah.
the mortgage does not pay itself. So, so I've really enjoyed that book because it's helped me think through my creative process in a way and kind of bucket things into like projects that I'm doing because I'm an artist and I love to create, and then things I'm doing that I'm like, these are revenue generating activities because I'm a business lady.
Yeah.
And so I've really enjoyed that a lot.
I like that. Anything that you're listening to or watching?
Currently I'm not watching anything because I'm trying
You're
my
watching your
best
babies.
not to turn my children into iPad kids. So I'm
Yeah.
like, there are no screens. I'm like one of those like
Yes.
crazy like no screen people.
Yeah.
And my husband is like, how long do you think we can keep this up? And I'm like, I don't know, but we're gonna try.
That's awesome.
And then what am I listening to lately? Honestly, I have been listening to Emma Chamberlain's podcast because Emma Chamberlain is the OG influencer YouTube girl. Like, she kind of created a lane on there that wasn't done before. And so I've just been kind of interested in what she has to say. I wasn't there for her YouTube era, but I watched her on another podcast and then went down a whole Emma Chamberlain rabbit hole. So currently
Mm.
I'm listening to her podcast and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I have watched a few of her YouTube videos, and she's really creative, and that's a good one to check out again. Well, this has been so wonderful. Please let us know where our audience can find you online, read your book, and also look into your clothing line.
Absolutely. You can find me at Camille Viviana on all social platforms. My website is blackwomanonamission.com. And if you're interested in buying my book, you can get it on blackwomanonamission.com or on Amazon. And again, the name of that book is The Power of Infinite Potential.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate all of you who are listening. Thank you to Camille for sharing so authentically. I feel like that we got so many good nuggets to write down. I know I took some notes, so we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Make sure that you are subscribed so that you never miss an episode. Also, if you are looking for my free Mom Balance Playbook, it is stock full with recipes, approaches to block timing your time, also freebies with quick snack ideas. It's kind of like your mom Bible for getting things done. It is for free at camillewalker.co, where you can also have access to my coaching and my programs. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss.